test. Nope. There, a little bit. Here we go. It's getting close. My dad says he has to turn his hearing aids to monk level sometimes when I'm talking to him. So, all right, now we're up to normal level. Well, welcome everybody to Clear Mountain Gathering. A lot of people here this morning, which is great to see. Ajahn Nisabo and I have formally entered onto our 3-month winter retreat, during which time we devote more time to formal practice. Last year, for the full 3 months, and then another month in the range retreat, we increased our daily hours of Zoom meditation. So starting this past Thursday, we did that, and we've got 7 hours a day. I'll say that again. 7 hours a day. Be there. For meditation. I'll be actually away going to another retreat starting this Wednesday for 10 days, a Goenka retreat, my first in 20 years, which is kind of exciting. But Juanita will hold down the fort and will sit for all 7 hours. So if you're wanting some group support for meditation, you can check out the website. We got 3 hours in the morning, 2 hours midday, and then 2 hours in the afternoon. And it's just a great way to encourage yourself to meditate more if that's what you want to do. So with that, we have a couple of other announcements. I think, Greg, do you have an announcement? Nope. Bonnie? Testing.
I don't know if you've seen the WhatsApp announcement that went out, but January is your opt-in, opt-out month if you are choosing or looking at volunteering or taking a break. So if you're interested in volunteering, come to me afterwards, or Christina, hand raised over there, and we can talk to you about volunteer opportunities. Or if you want the break, let us know, and we'll just take you off the list and give you that chance. Also, Lost and Found, please look in it and take anything that might be yours, because if it's here next week, it's going to be donated. Thanks. I think Alex?
Yeah,
Alex?
The Lost and Found is just in a bin over there on the stage.
Yeah, the Lost and Found is sitting up here. Who else had
Alex.
an announcement? Thank you.
So, hi everyone, I'm Alex. Mary and I are going to be facilitating a chanting group, and this group is going to start next Sunday, January 25th, from 10 a.m. to noon, and we're hoping that this group will meet every month, the last Sunday of the month. The details are in the WhatsApp, in the Seattleites channel, in the WhatsApp and the Discord, or you can find me today and I can give you more information about the group. But we're hoping to do a period of 45 minutes of chanting, familiar chants that we've done here, mostly in English, but we're hoping to incorporate more Pali chants as we go on. And we'll also end with a period of Buddhist mantra meditation, mantra chanting, and then finally a period of silent meditation. And the location is going to be in Phinney Ridge at the Seattle Mindfulness Center. And again, please contact me for more information about the program or the location or the address or anything you might need. And that information is in the Seattleites Discord and WhatsApp. So thank you.
Nice, thank you, Alex. Alex is doing a lot for us on the land search and land inspection front as well. And today, as we've mentioned, we'll be going in for the first and third Saturdays of every month after the gatherings to look at our new potential landed home. So we'll be leaving here at 12:15, and if people would like to visit, you can talk with Alex to get the address. And we do ask people not to visit outside of these scheduled times because that might be illegal. So talk with Alex, and then we'll visit today. Leaving here, the main group will leave at 12:15. So Cheryl, please. Thank you. Yeah, if anyone wants to share, it's helpful if you stand up. Okay, yeah, please, Ryan.
And lastly, St. Mark's generously offers us this space. And if you would like to give to St. Mark's for that, there's a donation box over by me in the back.
Nice. Thanks, Ryan. And also, Ajahn Nisabo told me that I should embarrass Lindsay and Scott. Lindsay and Scott, could you raise your hand? They're visiting from out of town, and they'll... No? Okay. All right. We'll have to try harder. Yeah. Where are you visiting from again? At Temple. Yep. So Lindsay and Scott will be here for a couple months, and if you want to connect with them, we have our potluck afterwards as well, so go up and say hi. Yeah. All right, well, let's chant together. We can do the chant on page 57. Chanting is just a really nice occasion. At Buddhist or Buddhist-adjacent groups in America, oftentimes you just get together in silence and sit for a while and then leave in silence, whereas in traditional Buddhist countries, chanting is a huge part of the practice. You might get together and chant and then leave, actually, with no meditation. But chanting can be a really integral part of one's path as we try to really internalize the teachings. So page 57, again, this is one which we don't often do, so it's kind of interesting and fun, and see how it can relate to your life, if it does. And we'll actually just be doing the English, so just the italicized parts, starting with bhikkhus. In bhikkhus here, it means monk, formally, but it's just a designation for any serious practitioner who's really trying to live the teachings. Okay. Bhikkhus, there are 10 Dhammas which should be reflected upon again and again by one who has gone forth. What are these 10? I am no longer living according to worldly aims and values. This should be reflected upon again and again by one who has gone forth. My very life is sustained through the gifts of others. This should be reflected upon again and again by one who has gone forth. I should strive to abandon my former habits. This should be reflected upon again and again by one who has gone forth. Does regret over my conduct arise in my mind? This should be reflected upon again and again by one who has gone forth. Could my spiritual companions find fault with my conduct? This should be reflected upon again and again by one who has gone forth. All that is mine, beloved and pleasing, will become otherwise, will become separated from me. This should be reflected upon again and again by one who has gone forth. I am the owner of my karma, heir to my karma, born of my karma, related to my karma, abide supported by my karma. Whatever karma I shall do, for good or for ill, of that I will be the heir. This should be reflected upon again and again by one who has gone forth. The days and nights are relentlessly passing. How well am I spending my time? This should be reflected upon again and again by one who has gone forth. Do I delight in solitude or not? This should be reflected upon again and again by one who has gone forth. Has my practice borne fruit with freedom or insight, so that at the end of my life I need not feel ashamed when questioned by my spiritual companions? This should be reflected upon again and again by one who has gone forth. Bhikkhus, these are the 10 Dhammas to be reflected upon again and again by one who has gone forth. Okay, so with that still ringing in our bodies, in our minds, we can meditate together. Okay, so coming to sit, the first thing we encounter is the body. So a good first step can be to set the body in a posture which is supportive of and similar to the mental posture we're creating. That's a physical and heart posture which is upright and relaxed. And for that upright part of things, you can really pay attention to your spine. You can imagine a very gentle and even loving string attached to the top of your head. Very gently, just pulling the whole body up, pulling the head up along with the spine. Very gently. And then at the base of the spine, another string attached to the base, and a weight very gently pulling the bottom of the spine, the spinal column, down into the earth. So you're being gently and lovingly elongated, top to bottom, this vertical axis. And then everything else can relax. All the skin from the top of the head down to the soles of the feet. All of the surface and deep muscles from the top of the head down to the soles of the feet. All the internal organs, tendons, sinews. No need to hold on to any tension, any strain. And this is a dynamic posture. And that the body affected by gravity will move around during the course of a sitting. You might find yourself slumping, or might find your shoulders tensing or your face tensing. So just always having at least part of your mind, part of your heart tracking this bodily posture. Are you still upright? And is the body still relaxed? And meditation is independent of what your eyelids are doing. That is, you can have mindfulness with eyes closed. You can have mindfulness and concentration with the eyes partially open, like is done in Zen or just halfway closed, halfway open, looking maybe 6 feet in front of you on the ground, or even just fully open, just allowing the gaze to be peripheral, wide, and relaxed. And you have to experiment. The Buddha never said that you had to meditate with eyes closed. He said, bring awareness to the fore, but didn't mention the eyes. So do whatever is supportive. And check that you're not deluding yourself. Unfortunately, meditation can be a period when people train themselves in mental laxity, or just even in falling asleep. So take the brightness of the heart as a metric, and have your eyes closed, open, or somewhere in between the two, whatever's most supportive for that brightness of heart. And with the body established, come to your meditation object. You can stay with whatever you're most familiar with, or you can, as we often do in the Thai forest tradition, practice with the breath and the mantra. Put do, put do. Put on the in-breath, do on the out-breath. It's the name of the Buddha, and it just means awake. And so for the next period of time, just pay attention to this present moment, knowing the breath and staying awake, keeping the mind bright. as a kindness to yourself, you can sometimes ask yourself, can I breathe in, gladdening the mind? Is there a way I could breathe that would gladden and uplift the mind? Just a whisper, just a question. What would that feel like? Just in the last few minutes, really any meditation session, but especially a group meditation, it can be really helpful to practice loving kindness or metta meditation. You might have familiar terms, just may I be happy or may all beings be happy. But I'll suggest just a single word, forgiveness. This can be a really profound door into metta or caring, kindness, forgiving ourselves on the in-breath and forgiving others on the out-breath. Just softening. And if forgiveness doesn't work, just may I be well, and may all beings be well.
For those who would like to join in requesting a Dhamma talk, you can follow along on page 124. And if you wish, you may bow 3 times. Brahma Shaloka Tipati Sahampati Katan Jaliana Diwaram Ayachata Santi Dasata Parajaka Jatika Dese Tutamam Anukampi Mampacham. And those who wish may bow 3 times again.
Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Buddhang dhammang sanghang namasami. So I thought today I might actually talk about activism or Buddhist activism, but actually more through the lens of what I'm calling, and somebody's probably said this before, but I think it's an interesting word, is deactivism. Deactivism. Before going into what I might mean by that, I would love it if those who are willing and interested, if we could do this chant again on page 57, the 10 subjects for frequent recollection, for one who has gone forth. And if someone chanted it the first time around and felt like, this monk tricked me, I don't even know what it is to go forth, then no pressure to chant. But actually, I will be asking people after we finish the chant to maybe share some just quick, brief reflections about what this might mean to you, if it means anything, this going forth. What is the Buddha pointing to? Okay. And for here, we'll do the English again, but we won't say that line, this should be reflected upon again and again by one who has gone forth, until the final time at the bottom of 59. So we'll just skip that 2-line refrain. Bhikkhus, there are 10 Dhammas which should be reflected upon again and again by one who has gone forth. What are these 10? I am no longer living according to worldly aims and values. My very life is sustained through the gifts of others. I should strive to abandon my former habits. Does regret over my conduct arise in my mind? Could my spiritual companions find fault with my conduct? All that is mine, beloved and pleasing, will become otherwise, will become separated from me. I am the owner of my karma, heir to my karma, born of my karma, related to my karma, abide supported by my karma. Whatever karma I shall do, for good or for ill, of that I will be the heir. The days and nights are relentlessly passing. How well am I spending my time? Do I delight in solitude or not? Has my practice borne fruit with freedom or insight, so that at the end of my life I need not feel ashamed when questioned by my spiritual companions? Bhikkhus, these are the 10 Dhammas to be reflected upon again and again by one who has gone forth. And I will be referring to these 10 Dhammas through the course of the next half hour or so you can feel free to keep your book open, and you could even totally phase me out and just focus on memorizing the sutta if you wanted. There's so much there. We spend a lot of time. This is one of the big ways that we have fun in a monastery. We give up so many things, we have so many rules, but we can still chant. We can chant all day, and there's no prohibition. It's just great. So we do it a lot. We memorize these in English, memorize them in Pali, and it's fascinating when you really try to internalize and memorize something. I'd encourage anybody, if this sutta doesn't work for you, maybe something else in this book does. A very related discourse in here is the 5 subjects of frequent recollection, which contain 6th and 7th here about everything passing away and being the owners of our karma. A really great other sutta you can memorize. But whatever it is, when you memorize something, you're learning to pay attention to it in different ways at different times, because words and concepts hit you differently depending on where you're at in the course of a day, in the course of a life. So I'm curious, was there anybody for whom this just seemed totally inscrutable? The concept of going forth just seemed totally foreign, totally alien, don't want it and don't want to have anything to do with it, don't understand it and don't want to understand it. Anybody? Brave hands? I wouldn't have judged you. I wouldn't have judged you. So nobody raised their hand, but yeah, I am curious. This is probably a unknown concept to many of you. So this concept of going forth, just immediately not having any background about what the Pali is or what the Buddha may have been meaning by this. Who might be so brave as to suggest what it meant for you? How might it be meaningful for you, if it was at all, as we chanted it twice? You can just raise your hand and say it out. Yeah, please. Committing to practice. Sadhu. Yeah, awesome. Making life about seeking the path. Sadhu. Yeah, Gary. Every time you go out to be with other people. Thank you. Yeah, please. Giving up lay life. Yeah. Nice. Retirement and reflecting on your life. Yeah. And do you delight in solitude or not? That's fantastic. And you have just retired, so this is perfect. You need to chant this every day. Come on. Yeah. This is what should be reflected upon again and again by one who has. Go into your fridge. All right. That's not one of the official ones, but oh, it's going on your fridge. Okay. Very different reflection. Yeah, please. Actively making a choice, going forth to choose. Yeah, please, Christine. Say that again. The merging of action and awareness. Sadhu. Yeah, Suze. Committing to Dhamma in lay life. Wonderful. And I think we'll just cap it there, but we'll be talking about this for the next half hour, and then we'll open things up. If people do, as you marinate in this concept and hear more about the context the Buddha was using it in, seeing if it does become meaningful for you. So the word the Buddha is using is pabajita, and it is literally referring to someone who has gone forth from lay life into novice ordination. So the novice ordination before you become a monk or a nun is called the pabbaja, and one who's gone forth is a pabbajita. So this is, on one level, as Julie was saying, very much a reflection for people who've gone forth, and I loved it. I was memorizing this when I was in that phase of my life where I'm wearing white. I've given up the clothing of a layperson, and I'm trying to commit myself to this different form of living in the world. And so it's definitely that. But I think, as Sue said, also committing to the path as a layperson. The term literally does, the English translation, going forth, does have all of the other connotations that people bring to it. Going forth from where you're at, making the choice to commit to the path, bringing awareness and choice to the present moment. So I first lived in Seattle in 2003. That was a big year in my life. It was between my first and second year of university. I'd already done, before university, I'd done a year of AmeriCorps, which is like the Peace Corps in America. And yeah, in between the first and second year of university, I encountered two things. Two, at the time, I felt very beautiful things. Deep dives into Buddhism and to anarchism. Anarchism. I moved here across the country with an anarchist friend and lived in this dirty old anarchist commune up in the U District with like 13 other people, and it was dirty. It was dirty. But it was also beautiful. I mean, living with these very creative people who are making the choice in the present moment to live, try to live in beautiful ways as they understood that. And I thought it was fascinating. It was a really beautiful subculture that I had never dipped into quite as much as I did that summer. And then right after that, I went to something called Mutant Fest, which is kind of like a rainbow gathering, but with more face tattoos. And yeah, went to that and then rode a school bus across the country back to my first Goenka retreat when I sat it was my first big deep dive into Buddhism. So these two, seemingly, I felt at the time that they were very consonant, like there was a lot of, both of them are talking about going forth. You're looking at mainstream culture in different ways and saying, actually, I don't want to live in this way. The dominant society of consumerism and hyper-individualism and just so many isms that I was just not into at the time, and was just saying, okay, I don't want to give my life to this. My heart seems bigger. I want my heart to be able to have a bigger vessel than just what it seems like society is putting forth as the right trajectory for me. So for a few years, I was trying to figure out how to live both. And I was reading articles. There's an article by Gary Snyder, who was one of Jack Kerouac's friends, called Anarcho-Buddhism. And I was writing zines about Buddhism and anarchism and putting these together and seeing the overlap. You know, it is a giving up of society. And for me at the time, and I think still, anarchism, you know, giving up of rules, is beautiful in the ideal. But for me, I just needed more archism. I needed more structure. You know, just giving up every rule ever is, you know, I just didn't have anything to settle on, and was, you know, kind of going too far in different directions, and coming to Buddhism and encountering suttas like this and forms of meditation to really train the mind. My mind wasn't trained enough to deal with the expanse that anarchism seemed to open up. So yeah, leading more in the direction of Buddhism and of a monastic life. Pretty much after that first Goenka retreat, I was like, okay, this is a type of education which is going much, much, much more deep than the type of education I was getting at the university. This is a type of learning which is really, I just can't get it in school. I need to devote my life to this. This is going to be a lifelong learning lesson. So pretty much from that time on, I was headed in the direction of monasteries. So I was really happy to encounter Theravada Buddhism, which is the Buddhism from which the Goenka tradition kind of emerges, and to be given these different structures, this overarching system of ways of training the mind. It's not just no holds barred. You know, it's you're given a net and you're given safety measures, both protecting yourself and protecting those around you. So I'll just be going through each of these different recollections for one who's gone forth, and kind of framing them in the direction of what it's pointing one is going forth from and what one is going forth to, because that's really important. Because so much of when we start seeing the drawbacks and the inferiority of, you know, just a cookie cutter life as it's haphazardly presented by society or by advertising, when you see the drawbacks of that, so much can just be a pushing away, an aversion, a going forth from, but you don't yet have a clear what you're going forth to. So the first one is, I am no longer living according to worldly aims and values. A more specific, accurate translation would be, I'm leaving the caste system. So vevanhi yamhi ajupagatoti. I'm leaving the varna, the system of caste. So the caste system did exist at the time of the Buddha, and it still exists in various forms in various countries to greater or lesser extent. And the word literally just means color. So I think that still has resonances. We all do still cling to various colors in our life. And oftentimes especially in America, a lot of Buddhism honestly is upper middle way Buddhism. You have a lot of upper middle class people, and the colors that we cling to there are largely red and blue, red and blue. And so is there a place in activism? So much of activism is entrenching yourself in the red or in the blue and in the flavors of that, and seeing the clear lines between, okay, here's where my color is clearly ended here, and those guys over there are clearly a different color. And yeah, I'm moving away from that. I see that clearly. And is there a place for decolorizing? So going forth from hyper-partisanship, moving away from caste, from colorism, to something different, to something which is, a space beyond that. So I'm no longer living according to color. I'm no longer living according to caste. I'm no longer living according to worldly aims and values. And honestly, even if you're here for the first time and you're like, dude, this is a bit much. I just walked in off the street. I saw a sign and I was hungry. And I thought you might have some food, which we do, 11 o'clock, potluck. But yeah, is there a space for de-activism? So yeah, so much of an activist life, an activist mindset really is charging yourself up. There's a charge that, what am I going to do? And the answer is anything. Just do it. Just do it. And the Buddha didn't speak like that. The Buddha was about intelligent, smart, circumspect, thoughtful, yoniso manasikara, or considerate, wise reflection. What, when I do it, will lead to my long-term welfare and happiness, and the welfare and happiness of other people. So just examining this, and I think anybody, by choosing to come here, is, even just for this hour, this 2 hours, okay, I'm no longer living according to worldly aims and values for this hour and a half, okay? This is a countercultural move that you've made to come here. You didn't have to come here. You could have, I don't know if people watch Netflix at 9:30 in the morning, but you could have been doing that. You could have been sleeping. You could have been doing, I don't even want to ask for hands of what people might be doing, but cartoons? So that's the first reflection. And how does that land for you? And what might you be able to commit to, or be interested in committing to? For monastics, we are trying to. I would love it if I could put in the conditions to be a monastic for the rest of my life. I think it's a beautiful life. It's a beautiful role in the world. So yeah, I'm no longer living according to worldly aims and values, hopefully for the rest of my life. And if it's for you, maybe it's an hour and a half every Saturday, maybe every other Saturday. Maybe it's an uposatha, or an observance day, which we advocate as upasaka, or as people who are exploring kind of giving your life as a lay form to Buddhism. Uposatha is kind of a holy day that the Buddha suggested. You can observe it on the lunar quarters, or just every Sunday or every Saturday. It's really up to you, but finding and making a day holy. So making a Buddhist Sabbath for yourself, and that can be a day to think, okay, I'm no longer living according to worldly aims and values, at least for today. Wouldn't that be good? Even if you're like, actually, I kind of like these worldly, like some worldly aims and values are like, yeah, it's okay. Yeah, and no pressure. I mean, you're the one who define how much or how little, or whatever feels onward leading, open-aiko, whatever feels like it's in accord with the Dhamma for you in your life right now. I am no longer living according to worldly aims and values. My very life is sustained through the gifts of others. The literal words, parapatibaddha. So my life is intertwined with others. So on the monastic level, I think I'm the only monk here, but for us, it's like super true. You know, every calorie we eat has been given to us. I've been living at monasteries. I reached my 20-year anniversary on January 8th. January 8th of this year, 20 years. Yes, get some snaps, some sadhus. All right. Yeah. 20 years. But all of that time basically being supported by the goodness of others. Every calorie I've eaten has been a gift from others, but all of you as well. And this is something that's really important to examine. Every meal you take, it's part of our meal reflection, that everything you eat, you didn't grow all of that food. You weren't the one who brought it to the store, and really you're just such a small part of how that food got into you and made you, really. So reflecting on this, my very life is sustained through the gifts of others. This is a world of interbeing. I should strive to abandon my former habit. This is very much true for monastics. We've put on the robe. We're wearing a Buddhist flag. And this morning, I thought the idea of going forth might be, as I've said, a bit too much. So I was thinking, why is this not a cult? And why am I not a cult leader? And I came up with 4 reasons. 4 reasons why I am not a cult leader. And therefore, by extension, why you're not in a cult. So I'm not a cult leader. 1, cult leaders, long hair. No hair. Cult leaders have a lot of sex. We have 0. None. Less than none. Cult leaders do a lot of drugs. 0. Again, 0. None of that. We don't do it ourselves. Don't make other people do it. And money. We don't own money. We don't touch money. And that's for real. So if we're a cult, it's like the wackest, weakest, like leave anytime you want. Like the doors are unlocked. You know, so yeah, but for us, you know, I'm wearing the Buddhist flag, so I've committed to living by all the rules. We have 227 major rules and a bunch. We have rules on top of rules on top of that. But for all of you, yeah, what might it mean? My conduct should be otherwise. So if you're taking on this lay form, if you've got a hat that's got a picture of the Buddha on it, or you're somehow telegraphing your Buddhism in different ways, you're telling your friends, I'm a Buddhist, then you should act like a Buddhist. And a Buddhist is someone who speaks in ways which are harmless, gentle, skillful. They act in ways which are harmless, skillful, beneficial, and they think and conduct their mind in ways which are harmless and beneficial. So purifying body, speech, and mind, that's what you're trying to do as Buddhists, or hopefully just as people. You know, this is one of going forth from bad habits and going forth to good habits. Next is, does regret over my conduct arise in my mind? Going forth from an amoralism, or from just a non-specific sense of integrity. You just don't really know what your principles are. You don't know where your bright lines are. Okay, would you steal from someone? Would you ever lie? Would you take intoxicants? Would you commit sexual misconduct? Like, where are your bright lines? So it's very clear for monastics, but hopefully it's more and more clear for you in a Buddhist context. There's what's called the 5 precepts. Undertaking the precept to refrain from taking the life of any living creature, from taking that which has not been given, from sexual misconduct, from lying, and from intoxicants. And then at the end of the day, this is going forth from amorality or moral confusion into a realistic consequentialism. There are fruit and results of our actions. You know, even if I don't see them, even if I'm blind to how my sexual misconduct or my lies affect the world? There are real world consequences to this. And Buddhism, when you meditate, as I was saying, you can keep your eyes closed or half open or whatever, but when you're awake and moving about in the world, it's good to have your eyes open, both before doing an action, while you're doing an action, and afterwards, to be able to look back. And what this reflection is training you for is going forth from regret, going forth from remorse. Because if you know what your principles are and you don't break them, then at the end of the day, you can look back and be like, yep, good day. Didn't do anything that I regret. You can look back and just feel good about your day, which unfortunately is not the case for a lot of people. A lot of people don't know what their principles are and don't clearly see how they bring grief into the world. And then when they try to go to sleep, they can't. There's insomnia because just constant mulling over their thoughts. And there is definitely a place for learning how to step out of unskillful rumination. Like there is a Western fetishization of remorse. Like if I just beat myself up about the bad things that I did long enough, then I'll get over it. But in Buddhism, it really is just about clear seeing and then dropping. Part of the Upasaka program, or stepping into certainly a monastic life, is this opening ourselves up, for lack of a better word, confession. We do it every 2 weeks or more often with a monastic brother or sister. And just, okay, here's this past 2 weeks, I actually did exaggerate, or I spoke in a way that I regret, and I can tell that to somebody. And hopefully in a group like this, you can find somebody who you can open yourself up to, and it's a great skillful means that leads right into the next one. Could my spiritual companions find fault with my conduct? And these are wise people. Hopefully we are more and more surrounding ourselves with good people whose sense of morality and integrity we trust. And Ajahn Nisabo gave me some feedback 2 days ago. What was it? We have a skillful means. So sometimes, even as monks, we want to get better at receiving feedback. A very good virtue of basically a Buddhist is being easy to speak to, easy to admonish, easy to give feedback to. The word is suvacha. It's just one word, very short, being easy to give feedback to. And it is beautiful because this is how we learn. Because we all have blind spots. And if you make yourself hard to give feedback to, when the other person, your boss or your friend or your partner or your kid, whatever it is, they give you feedback, and you're like, I'm the one who gives feedback. You're the one who gets feedback. Or you push back. There's so many ways that we are bad at giving feedback to, but softening. So Ajahn Nisabo, one of our skillful means is like a sticky note. Ajahn Nisabo said, Ajahn, can I give you some feedback as a sticky note? And I said, yes. And then he told me the feedback. And whatever it was great. It was great. And I could take it as a sticky note. He leaves it there, and then I can pick it up and let all of the emotional reaction like chill in the background. Because there was some stuff. I'm like, I'm senior to you, and I'm taller than you, and and all this other stuff. Like whatever, silly emotions we have as people. It's like, you're talking to me? We're doing this together. But all of that sticky note, he says it to me, I don't want to hear it, but like I can respond to him. I can wait half an hour, wait a day, and then, have the moral sanity. I was temporarily insane for those 20 minutes that you wanted to give me feedback. But 20 minutes later, it's like, oh yeah, good point. Yeah, I do that. That's annoying. So we got a lot of other reflections, 5 more for reflection for those who have gone forth, but that's about the time we have for today. But hopefully all of you have been memorizing these, and if not, you've got the chanting book. It's free online. You can memorize it and explore these things, because I think both the concept of a Pabbajita going forth from this place of non-choice and non-awareness to a place of awareness and choice, to a place of choosing how we interact with others, choosing how we separate and take a step back, how we do our activism or how we deactivate ourselves in the situations around us. So some really cool reflections in here, and we'll be curious either now or in future weeks if anybody does take this on. So, but I'll just end with that, and we can go to questions.
Hamdamayam Dhammakataya Sadhu Karam Dhamma Se Sadhu 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 Anumodami.
All right, so I think Ryan's got the mic. If anybody would like to share, if you could raise your hand, and then if you were willing to stand up, I think people can hear you a little bit more. And if anybody on Zoom has thoughts or questions, and if anybody does have other personal reflections about that going forth and how that might be meaningful for one, or if you're like, actually, I still don't get it and it's still not meaningful, then feel free to share that too.
Thank you very much for the talk and the meditation. So I have a question that I don't mean to be critical or judgmental. And it's a question that comes up sometimes that I'm just curious to know how you would answer it. So it's the idea of giving up worldly affairs. And if everyone gave up worldly affairs, the world would not go on. And what I mean by that, if everybody gave up money and sex, things wouldn't go on. And so the idea of going off to a forest, and I know that some people say this about Theravada Buddhism, going off to a forest and not touching money and not having sex and all those great ways of disciplinary living. And yet we need people to touch money and develop technology and procreate. So just that's a question that I wonder how you would answer that as a Theravada monk.
Yeah, thank you. And it's pretty much just Ajahn Nisabo who I push back against. So I very much appreciate. I didn't feel that it all was confrontatory. So and just on a technical point, and I'd love if somebody could fact check me. It might be possible to give up procreation if there were just women, and maybe there could be some, I don't know about that. I don't know, but that's not what I'm advocating. And honestly, it always has been, and it always will be an extreme minority of people who choose to go forth in this very formal Buddhist way to become like celibate. And the Buddha didn't at all try to push that. The Buddha wasn't like a monastic activist. He wasn't trying to make everybody convert to be monastics. And that basis of lay Buddhist morality being the 5 precepts of refraining from sexual misconduct is just totally fantastic and a great place to start. So I think Ajahn Chah was visiting Ladawan's house probably 40 years ago. He's kind of our teacher's teacher, and there was a Thai man who had been living in America for some number of years, and he you wouldn't find this in Thailand, but he kind of confronted Ajahn Chah and made the same argument, said the same thing you did. He's like, if everybody, became a monk, then the world would end. There would be no more babies, and the world would end. What would happen? And the Buddha, or Ajahn Chah, said, that's kind of like an earthworm being afraid that they might run out of dirt. And and Ajahn Chah could say it so much better. But you make a very good point. Like, an extreme minority of people would choose to do this, and that's totally fine. Living the best life that you can, the most ethical, within boundaries, clear boundaries that you and your partner, or you and your agreed upon morality is great. I think that is just, I don't think anything else needs to be said. It's a very good point. Yeah, thank you for bringing that up.
We have Juan Philippe on Zoom.
Let's go, Philippe.
Thank you, Ajahn. Thank you, community. So my question is actually kind of related to the last one. So I was just reading the suttas, and they were talking about the jhanas, and Venerable Maha Moggallana was saying that the first jhana, it's when a mendicant and then goes on to describe the first jhana. So my question is, what type of going forth is needed for these absorptions to take place?
Yeah, thank you, Juan Philippe. And great question. I mean, going forth could be a great euphemism or a great just synonym for jhana practice. Jhana is very deep immersion or absorption, concentration. And yeah, that translation is the common one you'll see. When a mendicant, I think we've got it in here in the Noble Eightfold Path, defining right concentration. It does frame things as when a mendicant or when a bhikkhu, but that really is a placeholder. Layholders, or householders, lay people can definitely achieve jhana. Lay people can definitely achieve jhana. And it does require going forth. It requires the definition of the first jhana is quite secluded from sensuality, secluded from unwholesome states. Like you really do have to, it's quite a radical going forth, actually. And whether you put on the robes, it does require you to physically separate yourself for, depending on your conditions. Jhana is difficult. It's very difficult for most people. Some people might have different conditions, maybe past life, you've been practicing it a lot, but most people find it very difficult. So even people who find it easy also need supportive conditions. So going forth, okay, so for myself, I mentioned I'm going to be going on a 10-day retreat inside of this 3-month retreat, to get even more seclusion on top of seclusion. Seclusion underneath seclusion, and to go deeper and deeper. And that there is a huge place for that in Buddhism. Buddhism is about fully meeting the present moment. Buddhism is about fully meeting the present moment. And Buddhism is also about being able to meet the present moment, like with wisdom and with stillness. And the Buddha did give full allowance, certainly for monastics, to have periods of retreat, but would advocate for also lay people. One of the trainings in that book, Thus You Should Train Yourselves, is even for lay holders, we will train our minds from time to time, or by and by, we will train the mind in the bliss of seclusion. So actually taking time for retreat, whether that's a half day, Allison will be organizing another half-day retreat on February 22nd. We'll have other occasions to have full-day retreats. There are these Goenka retreats, which cost no money, are 10 days long. BIMS has retreats. Seattle Insight has retreats. Ananda Bodhi, there's retreats at Spirit Rock all over the place, online. We have 7 hours a day. I think I mentioned that at the beginning, 7 hours a day of group meditation. But you do, if you want to experience that bliss of seclusion, that is a real thing. That is a real thing. And yet you kind of, if I say that word, the bliss of seclusion, the bliss that's free from unwholesome mental states, free from sensuality, if I say that and you're like, oh yeah, actually, I have tasted that. I've tasted that on retreat, or for whatever reason, that just came upon me. The grace, by whatever grace, I was able to experience the bliss of seclusion, the bliss free from unwholesome mental states, free from sensuality. If I say that and you're like, oh yes, I know that, then that's fabulous. And there are ways to train the mind. It's not full grace bestowed on you by someone else. You can put in the causes and conditions. You can train in jhana. You can train at putting in the conditions to allow the mind to experience that stillness. And if you're like, actually, I don't know what you're talking about. The bliss of seclusion. Seclusion just seems painful. I sit and watch my breath for 5 minutes, and it's horrible. There's nothing blissful about it. There's nothing pleasant about it. It's definitely secluded from sensuality, but it is full of unwholesome mental states. And unfortunately for a lot of us, you do have to go through that. You have to be able to learn how to ride the waves, to be able to stand up on the board, which is rather analogous to jhana. So yeah, taking the time. But that word mendicants or bhikkhus, anywhere in here, anywhere in the suttas, for the most part, that you find it, is referring to any deep practitioner. The Buddha would often use this word bhikkhave to refer not just to the monks. It is a male noun in Pali. Pali has genders. It is a male noun, but it was inclusive of the bhikkhunis, inclusive of any laymen, laywomen, lay people, anybody who is there. Bhikkhave is just being a way to say like, hey guys, hey serious practitioners, listen up. So yeah, not at all. You can practice jhana, and if you're inclined towards it, take the time to put in those conditions, and yeah, make the time if you can. Okay. Sure.
This is Scott. I have a comment. I was really touched by the talk. This is one of our favorite chants, and we do, Lindsay and I, reflect on going forth a lot since we spent a good amount of time around monastics in Temple, New Hampshire, and we use it as a model and try to understand how to live into that more and more in our own lives. And I'm realizing from your talk, Ajahn, that I've framed it often in terms of things we need to do to change in our lives to somehow approximate better conditions. So there's quite a bit of aversion and clinging that can come into my mind around wanting to break down things that somehow seem like obstructions of conditions, like having to make a living or look after a home or lots of things. And what your talk really brought home to me, the first part of it about what has to be moved from or let go, actually to me seems just personally more important, because whatever we're going towards, those are forms and they're useful, but they're going to be different for each person, and ultimately, as I understand it, we need to drop those anyway. Like, they're very important to hold as long as we need to. But the piece about renunciation, to me, what is it that we need to let go, seems so central. That was the word that came to mind for me when we were sharing our associations to the chant. And the phrase is nekama, is renunciation. And so that feels very freeing to me, because I love renunciative practice. I think I might be too attached to it sometimes. And so sort of less alleviating the pressure of like, yeah, but how do we do this? And I mean, it doesn't matter ultimately the conditions, at least according to what I understand from the Buddha, from Ajahn Chah, going down the line. This work can be done under any conditions, and in fact, that's the full realization of the potential of the Buddha's teaching. So, not to say at the same time, I have so much admiration for the monastic form, and I am prone to think it's the best form for really directly. If I could just, I don't know the time I get. I just want to share one story and then I'll quit. That's from Ajahn Anando at the monastery in Temple. He told us, he said, monastics, it's like there's a mountain there, and most people don't even see there's a mountain to climb, and they're just kind of wandering around. And then some people start to see there's a mountain to climb, which is something about sort of confronting the self in a way and ultimately letting go, however you want to say it. And he said the monastics, they just put on their packs, they're carrying very little, and they go straight up the mountain. And then he said for people like you, maybe, lay people, you may be going round and around. You're going up, but you sort of stop to sightsee, and you're carrying a lot more on your back because you can't drop all that stuff. We don't have the support to do that, but that's what you're doing in a way. And it made me think of that. Thank you.
Nice, thank you, Scott.
Yeah.
Yeah, more reasons to talk with Scott and Lindsay. Yeah. People who've actually tried to live this or understand this sutta, be inspired by the sutta in a lay form. That's fantastic. And I think you point to a really important aspect of going forth, which is the present moment choice. Just before this gathering, we were talking about one of the suttas where the Buddha talks about the results of suffering. So suffering can either lead to confusion or it can lead to search. Or in a different sutta, the Buddha says suffering can lead to more suffering or faith. So this is like a present moment decision. Like if we're encountering suffering, we can become more confused by it, go in the direction of more suffering, or go in this direction of going forth, of search, of clarity and faith in non-greed, non-anger, non-delusion. So very much, I think that's at the heart of this. It's very practical. It can be, for those who might be inclined towards it, be a path towards robes or some more outward renunciation. But yeah, can I go forth from my bad habit and whatever it is I'm holding on to in the moment that's not helpful? Yeah, thank you. I think we got time for one or two more questions. Yeah, Trenton.
Something that I reflected on that I guess I found helpful was kind of the idea of like the conceit that I'm worse than others and seeing that as a worldly value, kind of making that connection. I think that's something to me that kind of led to like a nice, I don't know, like release or something maybe. So that's just something that I found helpful, like kind of seeing it like that.
Yeah, thank you, Trenton. And Trenton's pointing to something which is, in Buddhism, conceit, the word mana, doesn't just refer to like thinking that you're better than somebody, but it's any kind of conceiving of self such that you might think, I'm better than somebody, or I'm the same, I'm equal to somebody, or I'm less than or worse than somebody. These three types are all conceit. So yeah, I'm glad that that reflection kind of gives some insight into that, Trenton. Thank you. Jen?
So I straddle to learn teachings between Mahayana and Theravada. And I know in Mahayana there is engaged Buddhism. And I don't necessarily look at it as activism, but I wanted to see if you had any thoughts on it. Like Thich Nhat Hanh would say, don't do a march for peace, be peace. Or Martin Luther King would, he'd say, before you're going out to march, you really have to purify yourself. So can you speak to how those relate or don't?
Yeah, no, thank you very much. And I think the idea of engaged Buddhism, for me, it was huge when I was first becoming interested in Buddhism, but I still find it very compelling and interesting. And I think it's, a big Dhamma door for people, especially who come to Buddhism through Thich Nhat Hanh, the Vietnamese tradition, but also the Dalai Lama, Mahayana in general, this kind of bigger view. And there's so many different ways to make your Buddhism engaged or to engage with Buddhism. And I think it'll be different. It'll look different for everybody. And I really was trying to continue, before I became a monk, really trying to continue activism in a certain way. And I think I just saw that, like, there's so much jerk, still like deeply embedded that I found it hard to, learning how to speak passionately, but with compassion. Maybe take that as a koan. How can you act with compassion, passionately, compassion for yourself and compassion for the other person? So, yeah. Maybe just, Suze.
Sometimes I come here and also to Seattle Insight, and the teacher knew exactly what was going on in my mind beforehand. As I woke up this morning and I started thinking more about the commitment that comes from knowing that happiness is an inside job and it's not dependent on externals. And so the giving up the worldly values and stuff. I am a lay person and a business person and part of a community. And what I said earlier about going forth for me means bringing the Dharma along on all of that. And that's the way that particular phrase that we were chanting, the first one, it's not to give it up, it's to embody it with the Dharma somehow. I mean, I kind of struggle. Struggle's the wrong word. I work with it. It's a very alive part of my practice, and it feels like I'm not giving up the sensual pleasures, the being part of the world. I am part of the world, you know, and I'm part of the fourfold Sangha. And so I'd love for you to talk some about that.
Yeah, thank you, Suze. Suze is a teacher at Seattle Insight Meditation, and I listened to your talk where you mentioned that you used to want to be a spy. You learned Russian so you could be a spy, and I'm so glad you became a Dhamma teacher rather than a spy. It's kind of like
trench coats. That's why.
trench coats. It's good, good. I'm glad it wasn't the lying. That's great. Yeah, no, there's definitely a place, and there was from the time of the Buddha it's a small fraction of people who will become monastics, bhikkhus or bhikkhunis, and everybody else will hopefully be finding ways to live the Dharma in whatever forms you take. So we really have to appreciate that as monastics. One of the cool things about this form is that we have so many mirrors. Like, we're wearing a mirror like every time we put on the robes, and pretty much we never take them off. You know, we sleep in a version of this robe. We're wearing them all the time, and as I mentioned, every bite that we take is basically a gift. And in one sense, you know, the Buddha did say, like, for monastics, we're kind of in debt, you know, until we reach stream entry or become enlightened, we're in debt in a sense, and we really need to be reflecting on the ways that we're living. There's that added kind of outward forcing function. I'm glad. I'm so happy people find ways to live it. Seattle Insight, for those of you who don't know, is a Buddhist meditation meditation center which preceded Clear Mountain by decades. And most, or pretty much all of the teachers that teach regularly through Seattle Insight are lay teachers who can speak more to being married and having kids and trench coats. We don't do that. And that whole spectrum. So you can go online for Seattle Insight Meditation. And I think there are a lot of these reflections, you know, which seems like it might be only for monastics. It is a deep practice, and it's deep for a reason, because it does cross through all these different currents. So, thank you, Suze. I think we might wrap up. So one of the really nice things we do on these Saturdays is bring others into this space. So on our website, we've got something called the blessing braid, or the chanting requests, and anybody can go on there, and if you've got someone in your life, a family member, a friend, a pet, who's suffering or who's passed away, you can put their name down and just ask that the community spread metta, send good wishes to that person. So we read those names every Saturday, and please, Milo.
For Christina, received terminal cancer diagnosis, spread love to her and family from Virginia and the Ajahns. For Hayes, parents Stephanie and Blaine, brother Phoenix. Prayers for Hayes, who recently took his life at 15, and parents Stephanie and Blaine and brother Phoenix from Steve Wilhelm. For Joseph Steerline, please dedicate merit to a longtime friend who passed away December 8th. His memorial service is today, Saturday, January 17th, in the Denver, Colorado area. Please spread metta to his wife, his 2 children, and his brother from John B. For Big Al, who passed away on Christmas Eve, spread merit for a good rebirth from Jeff, Juanita, and the Ajahns. For Eva, passed away this January 16, several years ago, spread goodness for her and her family from Ellie, Peter, and the Ajahns. For Mary Ellen, longtime family friend struggling with cancer and is now in home hospice palliative care, no longer taking chemotherapy drugs, please spread metta from John B. And for Nami, diagnosed with cancer, please send metta for healing from Shirley.
Thank you, Milo. And Does anybody else want to bring any other names, people into the space? Jen? Scott, Michelle, and Shella. Shaula. Yeah, please, Jessica. Calvin and Melinda. Yeah, please. Patricia. Mary. Hmm. For Peter and Susie. Salvi. Thank you, Mary. Yeah, please, Lynn. For Barbara. Noah. And for Sally, who's close to death. Asa. Landon and John, who passed away, and Mr. F. Yeah, please, Jack. AJ Bohm. Please, Judith. For Steve Armstrong, who passed away. Julie. For Lisa. Yeah, Trenton. Jason Bartlett's brother. Let's sit with those names and any others that we didn't mention just for a bit. And just continuing that practice through chanting on page 33. This is the traditional verses of sharing and aspiration. And this is just taking any goodness that you've done today or this week, this morning, and sharing it. Just as you might dedicate a book to someone who you care about, so too dedicating all this goodness to all the people who we named and all the people who we didn't. Now let us chant the verses of sharing and aspiration. Through the goodness that arises from my practice, may my spiritual teachers and guides of great virtue, my mother, my father, and my relatives, the sun and the moon, and all virtuous leaders of the world, may the highest gods and evil forces, celestial beings, guardian spirits of the earth, and the Lord of death, may those who are friendly, indifferent, or hostile, may all beings receive the blessings of my life. May they soon attain the threefold bliss and realize the deathless. Through the goodness that arises from my practice, and through this act of sharing, may all desires and attachments quickly cease, and all harmful states of mind, until I realize Nibbana. In every kind of birth, may I have an upright mind, with mindfulness and wisdom, austerity and vigor. May the forces of delusion not take hold, nor weaken my resolve. The Buddha is my excellent refuge. Unsurpassed is the protection of the Dhamma. The solitary Buddha is my noble guide, is my supreme support. Through the supreme power of all these, may darkness and delusion be dispelled. Okay, so for information about the chanting group that Mary and Alex are leading, you can go forth and ask Alex about that. Or if you want to learn more about the land visit this afternoon, and you want to go forth to the land, you can also ask Alex about that. She'll be leaving a little bit before myself and others, but if people want to do that, kind of go as a group, we'll leave by 12:15, so maybe gathering a bit after 12. So maybe definitely starting the cleanup at 11:45 would be great. And other than that, anybody who would like to can bow. Yep. You can wave goodbye to people on Zoom. And you can go forth to the potluck table.